If we're not talking about your referral network coming from or being your client network, let's see where we can look for other potential referrers. And associates, you might lean in here because this is, if you don't have a big client base, areas that you might look to develop. Other lawyers, law firms, alumni, business referrals, trade industry groups, sponsored organizations. And we're going to spend a bit of time on those last two. When I'm asked, like, where do I look for new clients? What would be the best use of my time? Because remember, you're busy, right? You're trying to be efficient and effective and get the best return on your time investment. Here are some areas where you might look. Gosh, firm alumni. More and more larger law firms are dedicating teams now to maintaining relationships with alumni. I think I saw from the ABA recently that the lawyer will work, on average, a lawyer works at 4 different firms in their career. So as you're mobile, as lawyers are mobile, they have the ability, especially if they're in-house, to recommend work to you, to refer work to you, or they move to another firm and they're conflicted out of a matter and they know that you do this type of work. So staying on top of people that you used to work with, if you're going to work at 4 different firms during your career, wow, there's a great referral network. Trade and industry groups, the Chamber of Commerce, the Real Estate Association of Colorado, the Bankers Group of New York, these types of things. They're great to get embedded with. It's a target-rich environment, if I can quote Top Gun. Yes, other lawyers know this, and there'll be other lawyers there, but okay, great opportunity. Sponsored organization is memberships. I think we'll spend a moment here. One of the attorneys I was working with recently had this list in her budget for the year. And you know what? She actually worked this really well. But I was overwhelmed. There's something like 30 different trade and industry organizations that she works with. This was a sponsorship request. If I was working with you, I'd probably say, that's way too many. Let's pick out 3 to 5 that you really can spend time with and do well. But she's a partner that's been around for a while and really knows how to do this well. So this was her list. Let's randomly look at a potential referral source. I worked with some attorneys in Houston. They were active with the Greater Houston Partnership. But when we were looking around with some of the associates at the firm, where could I be involved? We started looking at, and this is just an example, any major metropolitan area or anywhere where you're at has opportunities like this. The Bar Association, the United Way, the Women's Chamber of Commerce, the Arts Alliance. I've worked with attorneys that are involved in all of these. It's great. It might be something where you say, hey, my heart is behind the United Way and I'm volunteering there on one of their committees just to be, because I'm doing the right thing and I feel good about it. That's awesome. But you should see who sits on the board of the United Way in Houston. Not trying to be too mercenary about it. So here's the Greater Houston Partnership, their executive committee. Look who's here. Ernst & Young, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, an engineering and construction company. Okay, there's Baker Botts and there's Haynes and Boone, both large law firms in Texas. Accenture, big consulting company. If you get active with a sponsored organization or become a member in some type of organization, you might for a year or 2, you're just going to the quarterly luncheons. Then you get on some type of committee. Then you get on the executive committee like Danny David and George Gonzalez have done with Greater Houston Partnership. Man, you're meeting these people on a regular basis. What a great way, what a great referral network to develop. And what an efficient use of your time. Again, staying with Houston and this Greater Houston Partnership, they have over 500 members, and on their website, it's broken out into what type of industry, trade or industry, that member is in. Wow, once again, remember what I said, just taking 3 to 5, but really working them well? If you were doing this Greater Houston Partnership, you might take time to go through this list and say, are there potential clients that I have a kind of a natural tie-in? Hey, we're both going to be at the quarterly luncheon coming up in March. Let's make sure we say hi with somebody from transportation and storage or retail or automotive or who potentially has a need for the type of work that you do. This is fishing where the fish are, right? While we're here, you might consider doing a sponsorship audit of yourself. And what I mean is, again, working with lawyers, and sometimes they'll, not that list we saw previously, but they'll have a pretty extensive list. What are you doing with each one of them? I know in larger firms, there's more pressure on, hey, is this actually providing a return to us? It's been 7 years now at $5,000 a year, so we're into this for $35,000. Do we have $35,000 worth of business coming from them? Actually, it needs to be much greater than that, but I won't go to the whole CFO conversation. You might audit yourself and say, where am I at? What have I been doing? What have I been spending? Are they aligned with what my goals are? Do they align to where my clients come from and what my clients look like? You might redirect and say, some of these I've tried, and you have to try. Let me refocus 2 of them into a new area because fintech is really booming in Phoenix right now, and I want to be more closely associated with fintech companies. Or, there's something new, some new technology, nano satellites or AI or whatever. That old group, the Cattlemen's Association or whatever he used to be associated with, you now want to do shift direction to some other trade and industry organization or membership and sponsorship group. So a self-audit is a wise thing to do. Associates, if you're, as we're going through this, hopefully you're realizing, wow, look at how embedded you can get with one of these organizations. When you're doing that audit, or when I'm working with the CFO or helping firms do their budget, their business development budget, and we get that attorney that says, yeah, I've been going for 7 years now. I do the annual gala. Sometimes I go to the quarterly lunch. We spend $5,000 a year on this. And it's not surprising that a firm would want to say, is this working? And an attorney should be saying, is this working? What you might do is say, you know what, let me do this for 1 more year because I do know a lot of people there and I really think that it's going to turn into something. I'll say to you during that conversation, let's do more than the annual gala because there are so many opportunities. With that group that we were just looking at, there's an annual gala, there's a quarterly lunch. They have a website with member articles. Oh my God, I just did a tax newsletter. I didn't get it over to them. This will be helpful for their membership. Let me speak at their annual conference. There's a young professionals group. I'm working with a couple of associates I really like. Let me get them introduced to this group. Can we coordinate a fundraiser together? Can I invite others from the firm to go to that quarterly luncheon? Because it is such a target-rich environment. I think if you were to say then in your next year's budget, like, here are all the ways that I'm maximizing this sponsor relationship. They'll say, okay, now you're doing the right things. You don't just go to the annual gala. Let's really leverage this to the extent that all the opportunities are available. And the more that you utilize these opportunities, the greater the chance that referrals are going to come through this wonderful organization. So this is all good stuff. On the session on the business plan for lawyers, we spend some time here, and I really implore you and work with attorneys on fewer but more deeply, right? Really get embedded with these organizations because over time, this is time and money well spent. So referencing this module that we do, please do this one. It comes with a great outline, great takeaways, and obviously a 9-page, not obviously, it comes with a 9-page business plan. Okay, let me sell this for just a moment here without being too salesy. The number one question I get asked from attorneys is, how do I do a business plan? You have an inkling of, I want to grow, I want to make more money, I want to have more and better clients, I want to improve my referrals, networks. Here's a way in 9 pages that we can do this together. 6 components that we go through. It's not a binder. It's not a book. This is something that's very manageable. Again, there's an outline. There's the coaching session. There is the takeaways, which are really extensive. And then there's the plan itself. Man, if you were to spend a couple of hours and invest in doing this session, it ties together everything that we're talking about. So, yes, please do this.